Good morning. Today's Thursday. Today we'll learn the 22nd Perek of Shabbos. The 22nd Perek today is a milestone. We are at 25%. We're a quarter of the way through Seder Moed. Seder Moed has 88 prakim. We're at number 22. Means we have 66 prakim left in Moed until the next Siyum, which is going to be after Purim, Mirch Hashem. Um, Very exciting. A quarter of the way there. Let's go. Let's keep up the momentum. Thank you to our new subscribers on our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining the club, and let's continue to spread this so that everyone could learn together. Shas Mishnayos, finish it in time for the Siyum Shas in 2027, with hopefully the Beis Hamikdash B'mehera B'yameinu. Okay, Shibana B'mehera B'yameinu. Okay. Today's Shiur is sponsored by Nishmas Aaron Nachman and Simcha Cohen, B'Shul Mordechai ben Shep, Sol Bracha Sov Shmuel Leib and Bina Moshe ben Yosef. May the Neshama will have an aliyah, and for a full shlema for Ada Sar Bas Leah, Chana Pesel Bas Yanta, Yisrael ben Rachaleah, Racha Bas Pesel Zelda, and Avram Yisrael ben Risha, Chaya Bas Doba Bela. May they have a full shlema. Karov, so this so Shar Choli Yisrael. And once again, special thanks to our good friends at the Everest Equity Group for their sponsorship of these last 2 weeks, last week of Hanukkah week and this week of Parshas Yigash. And if you're looking for a mortgage, reach out to them. They're the best in the business, and they'll give you a good rate. Here we go. Perek Chav Beis Mishnah Aleph. So we're talking about if the Chachamim had decreed that if a barrel of liquid, meaning wine, oil, or honey, broke, and its contents are going to go to waste on Shabbos. So how much of that can you save? We already spoke like last week, about what you can save from a fire. That was already done previously. Now we're going to talk about what you can save from a barrel of that broke. So, Mishnah Chavish Shenishbara Matzilin Heimena Mazon Shalosh Shudos. If a barrel of food broke, we can save from it only enough food for the 3 Shabbos meals. As we discussed previously regarding Shabbos and Perek Tez Zayin, that was 3. There was a machlokas whether it's always 3 meals. If it's Friday night, you could do 3, and if it's Shabbos day, you could do 2, and if it's Shabbos, you could do 1. Or there are other opinions that say no, you can allow to save 3 meals, no matter what time of Shabbos it is, and so that was regarding to Shabbos. Over here, it's only enough food for the meals that you have not yet eaten over Shabbos. So it would taper down depending what time of Shabbos the barrel broke. Why are you keeping food in a barrel? It's beyond me. I thought that's only for wine or oil or honey, but whatever. Okay, so the Chachamim honestly people from saving more than this quantity because they were concerned that when you rush to get more containers, you're rushing to save the contents, so you're not even thinking about schlepping things in Rosh Hashanah, that's going to be a problem. So by limiting the amount that they can save, they protected you from violating the Isser of Hutzah. I guess the question would be, if you have an Erev up, can you save more because you're not violating the issue of Shus HaRabim anymore, because you have an Erev up, consult a local Orthodox rabbi, and hopefully you don't have to experience this to begin with. But definitely speak to your local posik about that. I'm not a posik. And they said that you can also say to your friends come and save some food for yourself. Meaning he can invite other people to take food from his broken barrel. And um, regarding regarding the saving the, the liquids for 3 meals, he's permitted only if he does not use a sponge to soak them up. You cannot use a sponge because that is schita, which is also on Shabbos, as it is a malach. So basically, if the barrel breaks, you can schlep containers or 3 containers, enough for one person for 3 meals, and and have it filled up. But you can't use a sponge or anything that's a sponge-like material to absorb the stuff. That's a problem. Ein sochten as the pears the mashke. We may not squeeze fruits on Shabbos in order to extract juice from them, is that as a form of the malacha of threshing. The farik, extracting is one of the tolados of threshing. So extracting something from a shell or other casing that covers it. This includes juice, squeezing juice out of fruit. But the rice applies only to fruits that are usually squeezed with the juice, such as olives or grapes, because that way you make oil and wine. In the case of fruits that are squeezed on occasion, say berries, pomegranates, oranges, and the isser is only derabanan. And in the case of fruits that are almost never used for this purpose, squeezing is mutter. So this mission is referring to the middle group of the things that are squeezed on occasion. That can you squeeze a lemon on Shabbos? Can you squeeze an orange on Shabbos or a grapefruit or berries? Consult your local Shabbos book or your local posting on that. However, if juice came out of food by itself on Shabbos, then they decree that it is usher. You cannot drink it because they're concerned that drinking the juice might lead one to squeeze the fruit in order to extract more juice. Okay, so that's an issue. Rabbi Yehuda says, if the fruit was intended as food, meaning that the owner stored the fruit in order to eat it, that which drips out of it is mutter. But if the fruit was intended as a drink, and he stored it to juice the fruits, then what drips out of it is usher, because they were concerned that, they were concerned that one might squeeze out more juice on Shabbos. That concern applies only when the owner rightfully intended to use the fruit for that purpose. If he intended to eat the fruit, however, he presumably wants the remaining juice to stay in the fruit, and there's little risk that he will extract more juice from it. Oh no. Mishnah bit, 1 second. Kalas devash seriskan Shabbos. If one crushed honeycombs before Shabbos, the yatsuming atzman asurin, and honey flowed out by itself on Shabbos, the Chachamim rule that the honey is forbidden to eat on Shabbos because that might lead to actively extracting more honey. Rabbi Lezer permits such honey because one is unlikely to extract more, since the honey is in crushed honeycomb will come out by itself. People generally do not bother to actively extract it. The Tanakama, however, prohibits even the honey of a crushed honeycomb, because in his opinion, the Chachamim were concerned that if the honey is permitted, people might extract honey from honeycombs that are not crushed. Mishnah Beis. Anything that's cooked in hot water before Shabbos, Shovin also b'chanim b'Shabbos. Maybe soaked in hot water on Shabbos, even though soaking food in hot water is a form of cooking and is normally forbidden on Shabbos. In this case, where the food was already cooked, soaking is permitted. Anything that was not cooked in hot water before Shabbos, may only be rinsed in hot water on Shabbos. I mean, a person can pour hot water over it, but cannot soak it in hot water. Since this food is still uncooked, soaking it in hot water is a form of cooking, and that's usher. Nevertheless, one is allowed to pour hot water over because that is not considered cooking. In some cases, even rinsing is forbidden. Chutz min hamaliach hayashin. The permission to rinse uncooked food in hot water applies to all food except all salted fish, meaning fish that was salted at least a year before. You have a piece of herring that's been salted a year ago. Dagim, maluchim, katanim, and small salted fish. The kilyas ha'uspanin in Spanish soul, sha'adachasan zu hi grammalach. This is because their rinsing is the completion of the preparation. In the case of these fish, merely rinsing them in hot water suffices to make them edible. Therefore, even rinsing them is not allowed on Shabbos. Mishnah Gimel. We're talking about breaking open a cask of food on Shabbos. Shover Adam is Chavis Lechel Hemana Grogros. A person may break open a cask of dried figs in order to eat figs from it. Provided that he does not intend to make a vessel. That is, one can cut a rough hole in the cask, because this is a destructive act which is not considered a malacha. One may not, however, produce a proper, neat opening, since he, therefore, because that's going to make that completes the vessel, which is usher. The ain't no the gufa shel we may not make a hole in the stopper of a cask, because one may, because that completes the vessel by creating an opening in it. The Rabbi Yehuda, this is according to Rabbi Yehuda, Chachamim matirin, but the Chachamim permit making the hole in the stopper because it's unusual to make such a hole, and the Chachamim permit only making a hole in the top of the stopper, because that's normal. Although Yechuen and Yitzida, they agree that one may not make a hole in its side, because making a hole in the stopper's side is a standard procedure. If there was a hole in it that one wishes to seal, one should not put wax over the hole, because in the process of doing so, one smooths out the wax, which is usher under the malacha of smoothing. Now, Rabbi Yehuda said, a case in which someone sealed a hole with wax on Shabbos was presented to Rabbi Yochanan Zakai in Arav. Arav is a name of a place. The Amar, and he said, Choshesheni lo nichatas. I fear that he may be chayav to being a chatas, although smoothing wax is a biblical, it is a deraisa. Yochanan Zakai did not rule that this person was certainly chayv to being a chatas, because it was unclear whether he had smoothed out the wax or just placed it in the hole without smoothing it. So he had a chashash, he had a concern. Mishnah Daled, noisnin tavshil soch habur shil sheyehei shamor. We may place a pot of cooked food into a cool pit so that it will be protected from spoiling in the daytime. If daytime heat, ves hamayim hayafim roim b'shvil siyitzanu. We may place a pitcher of warm, good, drinkable water in a pool of cool, bad water, so that the drinkable water cools down. Ves hatzonim b'chama b'shvil sheyicham. We may place cool water in the sun so that it will become warm. If you do that, it's not the malacha of cooking applies only when there's fire or some other heat, something that has been heated by fire, not when someone uses the heat of the sun. However, there are grounds for concern that one is allowed to heat water under the sun. One might think it's permissible to use any source of heat that is not actual fire, and he may come to heat water by burying it in hot ash, which has been heated by fire. So the Mishnah teaches that the Chachamim were not concerned with this possibility, and therefore one is allowed to heat water under the sun. So if you're in like Texas on a hot summer day, or I guess like 120 degrees over there, and you want to put like a bowl of water out the side of your car, maybe even fry an egg. Probably not fry an egg, let's say water. You put that on the top of the surface that's outside your house. warm it up. I guess that'd be okay according to the Mishnah. Again, we don't pass in Shabbos over here. One whose outer clothes fell into the water while he was traveling may continue to walk in them, even though they are wet, and he doesn't have to be concerned that 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 onlookers may think that he had washed them on Shabbos. Once he enters the town and arrives at the outermost courtyard, mean the courtyard nearest to the town's entrance, where it is safe to leave his clothes, he may no longer wear them, rather he must spread them out in the sun to dry. This is not, you're not allowed to do this in front of people. You must do this like in a private area, because someone who spreads out wet clothes to dry must indeed be concerned that people will Maris Ayin, that people will be choshesh him for having washed them on Shabbos. Therefore, this is prohibited in public. Mishnah Hey, Haroches b'meima'ara b'meitaveria, one who bathed in the water of a cave, that's water that was heated by a man, or in the Chametveria, any spring that's naturally hot. In a stopping, afilu be'eser al tunis, and dried himself even with 10 towels, one after the other. Lo yiviyem biyado, he may not carry them home in his hand, because he might squeeze water out of them. This is usher, even though he used 10 towels and the last ones are barely wet. But the other is talking unatis. Achas p'nei midem raglen. However, 10 people may dry their faces, hands, and feet with one towel. Sorry if I messed up that word. It's a difficult word to pronounce. Umavian osa biyadan, and they may carry it in their hands, because when several people are together, they remind each other not to be Mechal Shabbos. Therefore, even if 10 people use a single towel, so it's very wet, we're not concerned that the one who carries it will squeeze it, because the others will remind him not to do so. It's a good group of Chaverim. And the last Mishnah for today, Mishnah Vav, Sachin, Mishamsh, Mashmashin, we may anoint, apply oil to, and massage the stomach on Shabbos for pleasure, but not for healing. So there are alternate versions of this Mishnah that do not include the word stomach, and therefore the Mishnah reads you can apply the the oil to all parts of the body, according to the Bartanura. Avalo Miss Amlin, lo Miss Garden. However, we may not massage the body vigorously or scrape the skin even for pleasure, because these are considered weekday activities. And Yardilla Cardima, we may not go down to Cordima, a valley that's a valley in which there are pools of water, because its grounds are slippery. When it goes to bathe, there might fall and soak his clothes and then squeeze them out, which is Asur and Shabbos. And Osin Api, what's the say? Apituzin. We may not take an emetic, which is a potion that induces vomiting, because this resembles healing. We may not straighten the bones or spinal vertebrae of an infant, because doing so gives the appearance of building. Sometimes the bones or the vertebrae are misaligned, so you want to adjust them, but adjusting them is a problem. Obviously, if it's koch nefesh, then that's the Shabbos, but we're talking about a case here where it's not, and you can wait till the next day. We may not set a broken bone, because it is an act of healing. The one whose hand or foot became dislocated, Lo Yitrafim B'tzonei, we may not rub them vigorously with cold water, because it is clear that he is doing so for the purpose of healing. However, he may wash himself in his usual manner, in this rape. And if he's thereby healed, he is healed. He may wash his but he may wash his entire body, including the dislocated joint, even though the joint might therefore become healed. Since he is cleaning his entire body, he does not appear to be engaging in an act of healing, and that is mutter on Shabbos. Okay, tomorrow we are doing Perek Gimel, and on Sunday is Chav Dalet, and Sunday we'll be finishing um, the second Shabbos. 24 days, almost a month. We're in Shabbos, and then we're on to Erev and Mitzvah Hashem. Have a wonderful day. Stay warm and safe.